For centuries, mystics, sages, and spiritual seekers have spoken of a hidden dimension, an ethereal archive that holds the complete record of every soul's journey. Known as the Akashic Records, this cosmic repository is believed to contain every thought, emotion, and potential path a soul could take. It is often seen as a key to unlocking past lives, future possibilities, and the deepest truths of existence. In this video, we'll dive into the full story of the Akashic Records, their origins, the mysteries they hold, and how you can access them. Whether you're a seasoned spiritual practitioner or just beginning to explore, what you'll learn may forever change how you see yourself and the universe. The Akashic Records have sometimes been called the Book of Life, but this title only hints at their true depth. In many spiritual traditions, they are understood not as a literal book, but as a vast energetic field, an infinite database containing the history of every soul across all time, past, present, and even potential futures. It's said that every thought, word, deed, and intention is imprinted in this cosmic memory. Nothing is lost. Everything is recorded. Yet the Akashic Records are not simply a static archive, like a celestial filing cabinet. They are described as a living field of consciousness, an evolving dimension that mirrors the interconnectedness of all beings. Some teachers describe it as a form of universal mind or divine intelligence through which all life is linked. Accessing the Akashic Records is not about reading an ancient, dusty manuscript. Instead, it's about attuning to a higher frequency of reality, where knowledge flows like a river to those open to receiving it. Many people experience the records symbolically during deep meditation, prayer, or altered states of consciousness. For some, the records appear as a grand library filled with books, scrolls, or holographic visions. For others, the information comes as intuitive insights, vivid imagery, or sudden inner knowing, often beyond words. The way the records communicate seems to adapt to each individual, reinforcing the idea that they are a dynamic, living field rather than a fixed storehouse. Spiritual seekers believe that through the Akashic Records, one can gain profound insights into soul purposes, karmic patterns, unresolved wounds, and future potentials shaped by present choices. The records offer not just a view of what has happened, but why, shedding light on the deeper meaning behind life's events. Rather than serving as a tool for fortune-telling, accessing the records is seen as a journey of soul healing, a return to the ultimate truth of who we are, beyond the illusions of the physical world. The word Akasha comes from ancient Sanskrit, meaning ether, space, or sky. It refers to the fifth element, beyond earth, water, fire, and air, a subtle, formless essence believed to permeate all things. Akasha is considered the spiritual fabric from which material reality arises. The vibrational imprint of every being is said to be recorded within it. Thus, the Akashic Records are not confined to any location. They exist everywhere, accessible not through travel, but through expanded awareness. The idea of a cosmic memory isn't unique to one culture. Ancient traditions across the globe echo this concept. In Hindu philosophy, Akasha was seen as the matrix that gives rise to all creation, so fine and pervasive that it could carry light, sound, and thought. The Upanishads, sacred Indian texts written millennia ago, speak of a web connecting all life through vibration in the Akasha. In ancient Egypt, a similar idea appeared in the Hall of Ma'at, a spiritual realm where one's deeds were weighed against truth after death. Egyptians believed that every action was known to the gods, and that the soul's eternal fate depended on the accuracy of this divine record. Though the imagery varies, the core idea of a higher order of truth that records all things closely mirrors the Akashic tradition. Tibetan Buddhism also refers to a space of pure awareness in which all karmic imprints are held. The Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, describes how consciousness, after death, encounters reflections of its past actions, a detailed view of the soul's journey before rebirth. This, too, aligns with the belief that nothing is lost and that every soul's history is preserved. Even Western mystical traditions contain echoes of the Akashic concept. Early Christian mysticism speaks of the Book of Life, referenced multiple times in the Bible, which contains the names and deeds of those destined for salvation. In Jewish Kabbalah, sacred books like the Sefer HaChaim, Book of Life, and Sefer HaZikaron, Book of Remembrance, are said to contain spiritual lessons and human records across lifetimes. These references hint at a metaphysical system of recording far beyond human archives. In modern times, the idea of a universal memory field has also captured the interest of scientists and philosophers. Visionaries like Rudolf Steiner, Helena Blavatsky, and more recently, Hungarian philosopher and systems theorist Ervin Laszlo have proposed that the Akashic field might be a real energetic phenomenon, one that links consciousness, physics, and spirituality into a unified model of reality. Laszlo's Akasha paradigm suggests that the universe is not random, but an interconnected whole, structured by a foundational information field. This A field, as he calls it, records all events, interactions, and intentions, echoing the descriptions found in ancient mysticism. To Laszlo, matter and consciousness are not separate, but exist on a continuum, bound together by this invisible, intelligent field. The concept of Akasha, once spoken of in metaphor and mystic vision, is now resonating with scientific ideas about information, memory, and quantum coherence. In quantum theory, the notion that information is never destroyed aligns closely with the Akashic view that nothing is ever truly lost. Ultimately, whether understood as a literal spiritual archive or a symbolic representation of collective consciousness, the Akashic records remind us of something essential, that we are part of a vast, interconnected story, a story that is still unfolding both within and beyond us. The Akashic records, a new understanding. When people access the Akashic records, They may be tuning into a vast field of information, one that exists beyond linear time and personal memory. What ancient mystics discovered through deep meditation and spiritual discipline, modern thinkers are beginning to uncover through advanced science. The notion that memory may exist independently of the human brain, or that consciousness might be non-local and embedded within the fabric of the cosmos, is no longer confined to science fiction. Researchers in areas like holographic theory, quantum entanglement, and zero-point energy are, knowingly or not, approaching the very ideas ancient sages described as Akasha. According to physicist David Bohm's holographic model of the universe, the cosmos itself may function like a massive hologram where each part contains the whole. Just as every piece of a holographic image holds the full picture, every point in space may carry the memory of all existence. If this is true, then the Akashic records are not stored in some far-off spiritual realm. They're embedded in every breath, every cell, every moment. Accessing them isn't about travel. It's about tuning inward to the subtle layers of reality already within us. Even the study of sound and vibration across ancient traditions points to this truth. Mystics have long taught that vibration is the foundation of creation itself. Sacred chants, mantras, and tones were believed to resonate with the underlying frequencies of existence. Modern science affirms this, recognizing that at the core of matter lies vibration, oscillating energy fields. So if reality is fundamentally vibrational, it stands to reason that our thoughts, emotions, and actions also leave vibrational imprints, etched into the field of Akasha. From this perspective, the Akashic records are not mystical oddities, but intrinsic features of reality, operating at frequencies finer than our ordinary senses can detect. They're not cold or static logs of past events. They are alive, energetic patterns that can be read, interacted with, healed, and transformed. Understanding them in this light redefines everything. No longer just esoteric knowledge for the chosen few, the records remind us that we exist in a participatory universe, where every choice, every intention, and every heartbeat echoes through eternity. To touch the Akashic records is to touch the pulse of life itself, to recognize that we are part of something far larger, the memory, meaning, and music of the cosmos. And while these truths were once whispered in secret and encoded in ancient texts, it was Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, who brought them to the awareness of the modern Western world. Edgar Cayce and the modern rediscovery of the Akashic records. Edgar Cayce was a soft-spoken man from Kentucky who unexpectedly became one of the most influential psychics of the 20th century. Raised in a devout Christian household, Cayce showed signs of unusual gifts from a young age. He claimed to communicate with spiritual beings and had the astonishing ability to memorize entire books simply by sleeping on them. However, it was only in adulthood, after suffering a bout of laryngitis that left him unable to speak, that his deeper abilities emerged, While under hypnosis as a last resort treatment, Casey not only diagnosed his condition, but offered an effective cure, all while in a trance. This marked the beginning of a remarkable journey. Through self-induced sleep states, he would go on to deliver over 14,000 readings on topics ranging from physical health to past lives, soul development, and future potentials. Central to many of Casey's readings was his reference to the Akashic records, a kind of universal library that he said recorded every soul's experiences across time. Unlike earlier traditions that treated the records as accessible only to a spiritual elite, Case believed anyone could access them with the right spiritual focus, humility, and sincere intent. To him, the records were the record of God, of thee, thy soul within, an archive written upon time and space, not confined to any material location, but existing in a field of subtle vibrations. Case described the Akashic records as a mirror, reflecting the full spectrum of a soul's journey, its joys and wounds, light and shadow, across many lifetimes. He showed how insights drawn from the records could bring healing, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual. Many of his clients received detailed accounts of past lives, unresolved traumas, karmic lessons, and deep soul purposes, offering them clarity and tools for transformation in their current lives. One of Casey's most profound contributions was his insistence that this knowledge was not exclusive. With patience, dedication, and spiritual devotion, anyone could cultivate the ability to access the Akashic records. This empowering message inspired generations of seekers and helped give rise to the global movement of Akashic readers, healers, and workshops that continue today. Despite criticism from conservative religious groups, Case never abandoned his Christian roots. Instead, he offered a more mystical and expansive vision of Christianity, one that embraced the eternal nature of the soul and the universal laws of love, compassion, and karma. He even suggested that Jesus himself had perfect access to the Akashic records, embodying divine wisdom and perfect attunement to God's will. Even decades after his death in 1945, Edgar Casey's legacy lives on through the Association for Research and Enlightenment, ARE, which preserves his thousands of readings and continues to educate the public. Thanks to Case, the Akashic records are no longer obscure. They've become a meaningful part of our collective spiritual heritage. How the Akashic records work. So how do the Akashic records actually function? How can something so vast and metaphysical be accessed by the human mind? To answer this, we must look into the nature of consciousness itself and how it connects with the subtle realms of reality. The Akashic records are not written in physical ink or stored on a tangible surface. Instead, they exist as vibrational imprints, energetic signatures woven into the field of Akasha that pervades all things. Every thought, feeling, intention, and action creates a ripple in this subtle medium, much like sound waves traveling through air or light through a prism. Accessing these records involves shifting one's consciousness through meditation, prayer, trance, or other altered states into alignment with the vibrational frequency of the records. Some people receive information visually, seeing symbols, scenes, or libraries. Others experience intuitive downloads, emotional impressions, or a deep knowing that transcends words. The method of access often adapts to the mind and openness of the seeker. In this way, the Akashic records are not relics of a distant realm, but a living, breathing interface between the soul and the cosmos. They're not about fate, but about understanding. They offer not just a record of what was, but insight into what could be, potential futures shaped by the choices we make now. Ultimately, the Akashic records invite us to live more consciously. They remind us that nothing we do is lost, and that we are each part of a vast, interconnected story unfolding across dimensions. By learning to read this story, we may better understand ourselves, heal our pasts, and shape our futures with wisdom and love. Even our silent intentions generate vibrations in this field, much like ripples created when a stone disturbs the surface of a still pond. These vibrations are not random or lost. They follow universal principles, often referred to as karma or the law of cause and effect. In this sense, the Akashic records function as a multi-dimensional holographic imprint. Every soul's path is recorded in complex and vivid layers, emotional, mental, spiritual, interconnected with all beings, events, and timelines it has ever encountered. Rather than a linear narrative, the records exist outside the constraints of space and time. They encompass past, present, and future possibilities simultaneously. Time within the Akashic realm resembles a spiral or web, not a straight progression. Accessing the Akashic records is not about traveling to a faraway location, but rather about attuning one's consciousness to a higher frequency. It's often likened to tuning a radio. Information is already present, but one must align with the correct frequency to receive it clearly. Practices such as meditation, prayer, conscious breathing, and heartfelt intention help raise one's awareness, making it possible to perceive the subtle energies of the records. Once aligned, information may be received in a variety of ways. Some individuals see imagery, symbols, visions, books, lifetimes unfolding like film. Others feel the knowledge as sensations, emotions, or an inner certainty. Some hear it as a quiet voice or narrative unfolding within their mind. The way one receives the records often depends on their intuitive gifts, whether they are more visual, clairvoyant, feeling-based, clairsentient, auditory, clairaudient, or mentally intuitive, claircognizant. It's essential to recognize that the Akashic records are not fixed archives of history. They are dynamic, alive, and deeply imbued with compassion and wisdom. When one poses a question, the response is not simply informational. It is shaped to meet the soul's current needs for growth and healing. The records do not reveal harmful or irrelevant information. They respond in alignment with the highest good and may communicate symbolically, inviting deeper contemplation. Many who have accessed the records report a profound sense of peace, love, and interconnectedness. Rather than feeling like a data retrieval, it's often described as an encounter with a benevolent intelligence that sees and accepts the individual completely. Some seekers even report meeting spiritual beings or guides within the records who help interpret messages and safeguard the experience. There is an important ethical distinction between viewing one's own records and seeking access to someone else's. Most traditions emphasize consent. One should only access the records of another with clear and respectful permission. The Akashic field honors free will and sacred boundaries, and unauthorized access can have spiritual repercussions, including karmic consequences. Approaching the records is not about satisfying curiosity or seeking entertainment. It is a sacred conversation with the soul's deeper truths. It calls for humility, reverence, and courage, the willingness to face one's own wounds, missteps, and unfulfilled lessons. Yet the goal is never punishment. It is always about transformation, healing, and remembering our divine nature. Interestingly, the Akashic records are thought to evolve with us. Future visions within them are not set in stone, but represent possibilities shaped by the choices we make every day. In this way, the records remind us that while the past may be inscribed in cosmic memory, the future remains unwritten, authored by us through conscious action. The mechanics of the Akashic records can thus be seen as a sacred interplay between vibrational resonance, free will, and divine love. They invite us to not only witness the story of our soul, but to become co-creators of it, with greater awareness, wisdom, and love. One of the most beautiful truths about the records is that they are, in principle, accessible to anyone. One need not be born a mystic or psychic. What is required is sincerity, spiritual maturity, and a respectful approach. Yet just because they are available to all does not mean they are easily reached. The records exist at a frequency beyond ordinary waking awareness, and intentional spiritual preparation is often necessary to bridge the gap. Many traditions emphasize the importance of energetic purification before attempting to access the records. This may involve meditation, prayer, breathwork, or rituals. These practices are not meant to please a distant deity, but to align the seeker with truth, compassion, and divine presence. The purer the intention, especially when driven by a desire to heal, understand, and serve, the more open the path to the records becomes. One widely taught approach is the use of a sacred prayer or invocation, such as the pathway prayer process developed by Linda Howe. This prayer acts as a vibrational key, helping to shift awareness into alignment with the frequency of the Akashic field. When spoken with clarity and devotion, it creates a spiritual container and facilitates a connection with the record keepers, the subtle intelligences said to guard this sacred space. With permission, either their own or with another's consent, the seeker may begin asking questions. The best questions are open-ended and sincere. Rather than seeking quick predictions, will I get the job? seekers are encouraged to explore deeper guidance. What is the spiritual lesson in my current career path? Some individuals prefer to bypass formal prayers and access the records through deep meditation, breathwork, visualization, or sound frequencies like singing bowls. These altered states can lead naturally into the Akashic realm with insights, symbols, and intuitive knowledge arising spontaneously. Lucid dreams may also act as doorways to the records, especially dreams that involve libraries, sacred texts, temples, or luminous beings. Regardless of the method, all ethical teachings around the records emphasize respect. They are not to be used for manipulation, gossip, or personal gain. Approaching them with selfish motives closes the gateway and can lead to spiritual imbalance. The records operate under the universal laws of love, service, and the highest good. Spiritual protection is also a key component. Before opening the records, many practitioners call in divine light, guardian beings, or affirm their intention to connect only with the highest truth. This helps ensure that the space remains sacred and that the information received is pure and aligned with love. Not everyone receives the information in the same manner. Some people might be overwhelmed with vivid images, words, or strong emotional impressions, while others may only sense faint feelings or a subtle inner knowing that gradually grows over time. Patience is crucial. Indeed, the process of preparing, asking, listening, and waiting can be just as transformative as the information itself. This practice fosters humility, deep attentiveness, and trust in the unseen realms. Accessing the Akashic records also changes the seeker. Each visit leaves a lasting mark on the soul, awakening greater compassion, wisdom, and a sense of responsibility. The more often you connect, the more sensitive you become, not only to the records but to the sacredness present in everyday life. You start to understand that every thought, every word, and every decision is interconnected, woven into the vast tapestry of existence. Ultimately, the Akashic records are less about extracting information and more about forming a sacred relationship with your own soul, with universal intelligence, and with the unfolding story of life. They are not merely a place to visit, but a way of living. Hidden threads of past lives. One of the most profound draws to the Akashic records is their power to reveal the hidden threads of past lives and karma, those unseen forces shaping our present experiences, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. The records do not just recount history like a textbook. Instead, they shed light on the soul's continuing journey across multiple lifetimes, offering insight into who we truly are, why we face certain challenges, and how we can heal and grow. Past lives in the records aren't shown as isolated snapshots, but as interconnected chapters of an evolving soul story, a story of learning to love, overcome, and remember our divine origins. Each incarnation is a purposeful opportunity. with carefully designed lessons, relationships, and events meant to foster the soul's growth. When accessing the records, past life memories often emerge not randomly, but in direct connection to current life issues. For instance, a deep, unexplained fear of water might be linked to a past life drowning experience. Chronic feelings of abandonment could stem from exile or betrayal in a previous lifetime. Repeated relationship patterns, such as encountering controlling partners or feeling unworthy of love, may be tied to unresolved karmic agreements. The records reveal these past lives not to punish or frighten, but to provide keys for healing. By bringing unconscious patterns into conscious awareness, we can forgive, release outdated vows or energies, and reclaim lost aspects of our true power. In the Akashic tradition, awareness is the first step toward liberation. Karma, as shown in the records, is not a rigid system of reward and punishment. It's more compassionate and subtle, simply the law of cause and effect on a soul level. Every action, thought, and intention sends ripples into existence that eventually return, not as vengeance, but as opportunities for growth. Harm done to others may lead to experiences cultivating empathy. Acts of love may bring blessings, reinforcing our connections. Most importantly, the Akashic records show that karma is not destiny. It is a dynamic energy that can be transformed through consciousness, choice, and love. Awareness of karmic patterns gives us the power to change them. We are not slaves to our past, but co-creators of our future. Past life, insights, and healing. Discovering past life memories often brings profound emotional healing. Seeing past injustice or loss can release hidden anger, grief, or fear. Others gain new self-compassion, recognizing struggles not as failures, but as evidence of the soul's courageous journey toward wholeness. Sometimes, the records reveal ancient talents and gifts cultivated in past lives, ready to be reawakened. Someone drawn inexplicably to healing, music, or leadership may discover they spent lifetimes honing these abilities. Recognizing this soul memory empowers individuals to embrace their purpose confidently. Soul relationships. Another powerful aspect of the records is understanding soul relationships. The idea that we often reincarnate with the same souls across many lifetimes, playing different roles, friends, siblings, teachers, or even adversaries. Recognizing these connections can bring forgiveness, gratitude, and deeper understanding. It allows us to look beyond conflicts and see the sacred agreements we've made to help each other grow. Past life insights can also explain why some people feel an instant connection to certain places, cultures, or historical eras. A traveler might feel at home in a foreign land they've never visited, or a historian may feel drawn irresistibly to a particular time period. These are echoes of past lives guiding us toward healing unfinished lessons or retrieving forgotten wisdom. Yet the records remind us that while past lives are important, they do not define us. They are chapters, not prisons. We honor them by integrating their lessons and moving forward with greater freedom and awareness. The soul is always evolving, and each life, including this one, offers a unique chance to embody more of our divine essence. Through the lens of the Akashic records, the past is not a heavy burden, but a treasure trove of wisdom. Karma is not punishment, but a loving invitation to awaken deeper. Our current life is not random, but a sacred and brave choice, a continuation of a grand, beautiful story beyond our imagining. Dangers and misconceptions, as powerful as the Akashic records are, they come with risks. Not because the records themselves are harmful, but because people's egos, desires, and blind spots can cause misuse or misunderstanding. True seekers must approach the records with reverence, caution, humility, and clear intention. A common misconception is to treat the records like a spiritual fortune-telling tool, a place to find lottery numbers, soulmate names, or fixed future predictions. The records are not meant to feed the ego's desire for control or provide magical guarantees of material success. Instead, they are a sacred source of wisdom intended to guide the soul's healing, growth, and alignment with its highest self. Approaching the records with selfish or materialistic motives can block genuine access or attract distorted information. When the seeker's heart is not aligned with spiritual truth, the connection can become clouded by ego projections, wishful thinking, or even deceptive lower energies pretending to offer guidance. Just as tuning a musical instrument requires precision, tuning one's consciousness to the records demands honesty, humility, and pure intention. Another danger is using the records as a weapon against oneself or others. Some people who learn about karmic patterns or past lives fall into judgment, guilt, or resentment. They may blame themselves harshly or carry shame that the records never intended to impose. Using knowledge of another person's karmic history to justify feelings of superiority, manipulation, or exclusion is a serious misuse of spiritual knowledge. The truth is, the Akashic records exist within a vibration of unconditional love. They reveal past mistakes, not to shame us, but to invite us into healing. They show others karmic debts, not to condemn them, but to encourage us to extend greater compassion and understanding. When approached with an open heart, the records become a powerful tool for freedom. But when filtered through ego, they can become chains. There is also the danger of dependency. Some seekers become so captivated by the records that they compulsively consult them for every decision, big or small. Rather than using the records to deepen their inner wisdom, They substitute true spiritual growth with constant external guidance. The Akashic records are intended to be a bridge to your higher self, not a crutch. True wisdom emerges when divine insight is balanced with personal responsibility, courage, and trust in our own evolving intuition. Another mistaken belief is that accessing the Akashic records is easy, automatic, or guaranteed. While the records are available to all souls, not everyone who tries can connect immediately, and they shouldn't always. Sometimes spiritual preparation is necessary before one can safely and accurately access this level of consciousness. The soul may need to clear emotional blockages, purify intentions, or strengthen discernment before being allowed entry. This is not punishment, but protection. The Akashic records themselves are guarded by spiritual beings often called record keepers or guardians, who oversee access and ensure information is revealed only when it serves the seeker's highest good and when the person is ready. Attempts to force access through impatience, coercion, or unethical means often result in silence, confusion, or misleading visions. These arise from the lower subconscious mind, not the records. The seekers must also be wary of spiritual pride. The belief that accessing the Akashic records makes one more enlightened, superior, or important than others. The true measure of a person's work with the records is not the volume of impressive information they can share, but how deeply they embody compassion, humility, service, and love in their everyday lives. The deeper the connection to the records, the gentler, wiser, and more selfless the soul becomes. Thus, working with the Akashic records requires sacred discipline, a continual return to the heart, a readiness to purify motives, and a commitment to using the knowledge for the highest good. The records are not a playground for the curious or a marketplace for the ambitious. They are a temple that demands our best selves and in return offers the extraordinary gift of remembering who we truly are. While theories and teachings about the Akashic records can be fascinating, it is the lived experiences of those who have accessed them that truly bring their mystery and power alive. Around the world, countless seekers, ordinary people, healers, mystics, and intuitives have stepped into the Akashic field and emerged transformed. Their stories offer insights into how the records function, heal and guide souls with infinite wisdom and love. For example, a spiritual counselor from New York described her first experience as entering a luminous library with no visible walls or ceiling. She saw infinite shelves filled not with ordinary books, but with living, breathing lights. Focusing on understanding a lifelong fear of abandonment, a particular light approached her and opened, not into words, but into a vivid past life vision. In it, she was a child left behind during wartime, waiting in vain for a mother who never returned. The pain of that separation had echoed across lifetimes, coloring her present relationships. This revelation helped her realize that her fear was not a personal failing, but a centuries-old wound, allowing her to release old grief and open her heart to trust and love. Another story is of a skeptical engineer from Germany who reluctantly agreed to an Akashic reading at his wife's urging. Expecting nothing, he was shown a past life as a Renaissance inventor, obsessed with creating machines to change the world, but who died feeling like a failure because his work was misunderstood. This insight explained his present anxieties about being good enough and whether his ideas would be accepted. For the first time, he recognized his creative drive as a sacred mission carried through time, no longer selfish or foolish, but part of a greater spiritual journey. There are also powerful stories of spontaneous healing through the records. A young woman with chronic migraines sought answers after conventional medicine failed her. In her session, she uncovered a karmic imprint from a past life where she had been silenced for speaking her truth, a trauma energetically stored around her head and throat chakras. Through forgiveness and healing rituals guided by the records, she reclaimed her voice, and her migraines gradually eased and disappeared. The healing was physical, emotional, spiritual, and existential. Another profound experience comes from a hospice nurse who used the records to understand the soul journeys of her patients nearing death. Through meditation, she received visions of their past lives, lessons learned, and soul contracts being completed in this lifetime. This understanding brought her great peace and compassion, enabling her to support the dying with reverence rather than fear or sadness, helping them cross the threshold to a greater homecoming. Some experiences are deeply mystical. One seeker described visiting a realm beyond words, a place of pure light and sound where all separation vanished. There, she understood instantly that every soul, every story, was intimately connected like notes in a grand cosmic symphony. Returning to ordinary life, she carried an unshakable sense of unity and love for all existence. Importantly, not every Akashic journey reveals dramatic visions or past lives. For some, the records communicate through quiet, intuitive nudges, subtle emotional shifts, or sudden clarity about a present decision. These small moments are just as sacred and powerful. They remind us that the records are not about spectacle but resonance, revealing exactly the truths our souls are ready to receive in the way best suited to us. Across all these stories, common themes emerge. The records meet each seeker exactly where they are, with infinite compassion. The purpose of accessing the records is healing, not ego gratification. The records deepen the soul's understanding of love, responsibility, and connection. True transformation comes not just from receiving information, but from integrating it into everyday life. Real experiences with the Akashic records show that this mystical archive is not an abstract idea. It is alive, vibrant, and deeply personal. It whispers to every soul, "You are known, you are remembered, you are loved beyond measure. Your journey matters more than you realize." As humanity stands at the brink of a new era marked by rapid change, uncertainty, and extraordinary potential, the Akashic records are poised to play an even greater role in our spiritual evolution. Far from being a relic of ancient mysticism, the records are emerging as a vital tool for awakening human consciousness in the modern world. The future of the Akashic records is not about secret knowledge reserved for a few, but about collective remembering. It is about reclaiming the timeless wisdom within us and bringing it into every aspect of life: relationships, education, leadership, healing, creativity, and even earth stewardship. As more people learn to access the records through meditation, prayer, or spiritual practices, a new vision of reality unfolds. We begin to see ourselves not as isolated individuals struggling to survive, but as radiant threads woven into a magnificent tapestry of existence. We recognize that every thought, choice, and act of love or harm resonates far beyond what our senses perceive. The Akashic records teach us responsibility, not the heavy, guilt-ridden kind, but a joyful, empowering responsibility that comes from knowing we co-create the future. In this new era, the records could inspire a different kind of leadership, rooted not in power or greed, but in wisdom, compassion, and service to the greater good. Imagine leaders who consult not only experts and data, but also the deeper soul guidance available through the records. Imagine healing that addresses not only physical symptoms, but the karmic and spiritual roots of illness. Imagine education that honors each child's unique soul journey, nurturing gifts carried across lifetimes. The records also remind us that Earth itself holds a record, a memory woven into rocks, rivers, forests, and skies. Healing our relationship with nature and accessing Earth's Akashic wisdom can awaken new reverence, stewardship, and harmony. We remember that we are not separate from nature. We are nature, dreaming and evolving through time. Technological advances may paradoxically help us return to ancient truths. As science explores quantum fields, holographic realities, and interconnectedness, the Akashic concept may move from mystical metaphor to scientific understanding. The divide between spirit and science could dissolve, leading to a unified vision where intuition and intellect, spirit and matter are aspects of one reality. But even as humanity advances, the records remind us that true evolution begins within. The real revolution is spiritual, the quiet, courageous choice by individuals to embrace love over fear, truth over illusion, service over selfishness. Every time someone accesses the Akashic records and aligns their life with soul purpose, the entire human collective is uplifted, like ripples spreading across water. Each act of healing, each moment of awakening, echoes into the larger field. The future of the Akashic records is not just about individuals seeking answers. It is about a global awakening, a movement toward empathy, unity, and conscious co-creation. It is humanity stepping into its role as guardian of life, steward of wisdom, and creator of worlds both seen and unseen. In the end, the Akashic records are not separate from us. They are woven into the fabric of our souls, always whispering, "Remember who you are. Remember where you come from. Remember the magnificent story you are here to tell." May you walk your path with courage, compassion, and the deep knowing that you are seen, remembered, and endlessly loved. The next chapter is yours to create.